Hello, and thank you for joining me as we hear my presentation on Kanelbullens Dag, or Swedish Cinnamon Bun Day, and my name is Jody Leonforti. Cinnamon buns are the best-loved pastry among pastry-loving Swedes. On average, they eat approximately 316 cinnamon buns every year. And in Sweden, fika is an essential part of everyday life. It is so sacred that 2 coffee breaks per day are an unwritten rule in many Swedish workplaces. Coffee itself is closely associated with cinnamon buns. It traveled a very long way before coming to Sweden. From the coffee houses in Mecca in the 1400s, via Persia, Constantinople, Venice during the 1600s, and then further north in Europe. Karl XII brought coffee even from Turkey. And in Stockholm, coffee houses were established in the early 1700s where the men drank coffee while discussing politics and literature. But we cannot properly tell the story of the cinnamon bun without giving full due to its star ingredient, cinnamon. Cinnamon has been known in China for 5,000 years, where it was used both as a flavoring and as medicine. In Egypt, it has been known for almost as long. It was originally used there as a perfume and in embalming mummies. Inscriptions have been found on the walls of some of the royal tombs that mention both Ceylon cinnamon and Chinese cinnamon. Now, Chinese cinnamon would make its way to India over diverse trade routes, and cinnamon from Ceylon also arrived there. In Europe, cinnamon is one of the earliest known spices. Arabian traders had a virtual monopoly, and it wasn't until 1498 that it was finally broken. Vasco da Gama succeeded in becoming the first seafarer to round the Cape of Good Hope and reach India where there were all kinds of spices. He thus opened up a new, more direct trade route. In 1505, the Portuguese reached Ceylon, where cinnamon grew wild. They soon conquered the country and built up a monopoly also. Portuguese dominance was soon replaced by the Dutch, French, and English. And in 1833, Ceylon finally regained control of the island and its cinnamon. But the Dutch had begun to grow cinnamon on Java and were outcompeting Ceylon. Now, while we can appreciate its importance in history, what exactly is cinnamon? Cinnamon is the dried bark of the tropical cinnamon tree, Cinnamomum. There are 50 to 250 species in the genus. They are all more or less aromatic, but the following 4 are used for flavoring: Ceylon cinnamon, Indonesian, Vietnamese, and Chinese cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon comes from Sri Lanka, formerly Ceylon, Indonesian cinnamon from Sumatra, Vietnamese cinnamon from northern Vietnam, and Chinese cinnamon from southern China. The Ceylon cinnamon that is produced in small quantities goes primarily to Mexico, the rest of Central America, and northern South America. In Europe, it is not used much, and in the U.S., hardly at all. The Southeast Asian species are used in Europe, the United States, and parts of Asia. Indonesian cinnamon varies from mild to strong in flavor, depending on where on the tree the bark was grown. This cinnamon has become the most popular in terms of flavor due to its rich, strong essence and the fact that it withstands heat treatment, for example in baking, very well. Cinnamon from Vietnam and China is mostly used for grinding. Chinese cinnamon has deteriorated since the 1960s, and many consider it to be neither good from a taste nor microbiological point of view. Vietnamese cinnamon has a stronger flavor, mainly because it is harvested later. The high content of essential oil makes it taste almost like pepper, and it is very difficult to grind. But let's return now to the cinnamon roll or cinnamon bun. It was first created after World War I, but as the ingredients flour, sugar, eggs, butter, cinnamon, and cardamom were expensive and hard to find, it did not become popular until the 1950s. Our modern cinnamon bun, or cinnamon snail, was created around 1920. Food that had been rationed during the wartime period was starting to come back: sugar, butter, flour, and spices. The cinnamon bun was thus being sold at cafes, but at home most were baking different kinds of buns that were shaped as wreaths or long, flat bread. Now, when sugar became cheaper in the late 19th century, it became common to have syrup loaves instead of sourdough bread. The fine bread with sifted flour, which was mostly eaten for holidays, also became more commonplace. The baking of cinnamon buns at home started in the beginning of the 1950s. Better economy, cheaper raw materials, and better ovens changed the bun from being a luxury to more widely accessible. Compressed yeast, which had already appeared in the mid-1800s, made it possible to bake porous, sweet bread to accompany coffee. Wheat became cheaper and more common as well. And when the iron stove replaced the open fireplace, it became easier to bake smaller cakes such as buns and biscuits. Expensive luxury ingredients such as sugar, syrup, almond, and other various spices had belonged only to the wealthy, and not many could afford to use them. A general increase in standards around the last century meant that more households could engage in such baking. In addition, contemporary lifestyles encouraged domesticity, as most women were still housewives during this era. And finally, we have Hembakningsrådet to thank for Kanelbullens Dag. The Home Baking Council in Sweden was formed in 1959 with the aim of safeguarding home baking and its rich cultural heritage. They also sought to inspire new generations to bake with new and exciting recipes. Historically speaking, however, the council was a trade group supported by yeast, flour, sugar, and margarine manufacturers. Today, the Nordic sugar company Dan Sukker runs the Home Baking Council. On October 4, 1999, the council instituted this holiday just in time for their 40th anniversary. By its fourth year, market research showed that more than half of the population knew about this most auspicious occasion, and many responded that they certainly ate cinnamon rolls on October 4th. At schools around the country, students can participate in a cinnamon roll baking design competition. These are also featured in newspapers and advertised widely. Millions of Swedes celebrate Kanelbullens Dag by simply relaxing and enjoying a pleasant fika, whether alone or with dear friends and loved ones. But as October is often associated with charitable acts and organizations in Sweden, this tradition carries over into Cinnamon Bun Day festivities. This spirit of generosity typifies Swedish culture overall and was among the aspirations of Hembakningsrådet. Some bakeries will contribute their proceeds to the Swedish Childhood Cancer Foundation or Breast Cancer Fund. So as we have seen, the celebration of Kanelbullens Dag, or Cinnamon Bun Day in Sweden, is an important and especially unique, cherished Swedish tradition across the nation and is appreciated worldwide today. Thank you.